The morning my grandma saved me without saying a word. I still remember the morning it all began. I was 10 years old, rushing out the door, backpack half open, shoes untied. And my stomach empty as usual. "Grandma, I don't have time for breakfast." I said it casually, not knowing that one small sentence would shape the next decade of my life. She didn't scold me, she didn't sigh, she simply said, "Well then, sweetheart, I'll make you a little lunch every morning. You can eat on the way." And that was it. The next morning, there it was. A small lunchbox wrapped in a faded cloth she had owned for years. Inside a slightly crooked sandwich. Apple slices that had already browned a little. And a handwritten note that said, "Have a good day." It wasn't fancy. It wasn't perfect. But it tasted like a hug. And so began a routine that lasted. Not days, not months, but 10 entire years. Elementary school, middle school, high school. No matter how early I left. No matter how cold the morning was. That lunchbox was always waiting for me on the table. It became such a normal part of my life that I stopped thinking about it. I stopped asking how early she woke up. I stopped noticing her tired eyes. I stopped noticing the way her hands sometimes trembled. I didn't know then, couldn't have known, that every lunch she packed was slowly costing her strength. I didn't know that her heart was failing. I didn't know she hid her hospital visits from me. I didn't know she counted the number of days left until she could finish what she called our deal. I didn't know that one day, I would look back at those lunches and realize they were her way of keeping a promise and preparing for goodbye. It happened on a Tuesday morning. The first morning I truly looked at her hands. I walked into the kitchen half asleep and saw her standing by the stove, trying to flip an egg. But her fingers, they wouldn't stop shaking. "Grandma?" I stepped closer. She jerked her hand away, hiding it behind her apron. "Just old age," she said with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Nothing to fuss over. But later that afternoon, while she was napping, I opened the trash can to take something out, and saw it. A crumpled hospital envelope. Cardiology department. Appointment reminder. Prescription refill. My heart dropped. I confronted her that evening. Not angrily, but scared, confused, desperate. "Grandma, why didn't you tell me?" She paused, then said the one sentence that made me understand everything. "Because you already worry about too much. And I won't be the reason you lose sleep." But I did lose sleep. I lay awake for hours, thinking back on all the little signs I ignored. Her short breaths when climbing stairs. The way she pressed her palm against her chest when she thought I wasn't looking. The days the lunchbox had only a few things, because she was too tired to shop. And yet, every morning, she still stood in that kitchen, shaking hands, weak heart and all, to make sure I didn't leave the house hungry. I wanted to scream. I wanted to cry. I wanted to shake her and tell her she didn't have to do this. But she did, and I didn't know why. Not yet. The real reason came a week later. In a yellow envelope labeled with my name. A week later, Grandma asked me to sit beside her on the couch. "Sweetheart," she said softly, "bring me that yellow envelope from my drawer." I thought it was a bill, a letter, anything ordinary. But on the front, in her shaky handwriting, were the words, "The last lunch for the day you leave home." My throat tightened. What is this? She took my hand and said something that shattered me. "You made me a promise when you were 10. You said, when I grow up, I'll make your breakfast, Grandma." I frowned. I barely remembered it, but she remembered every syllable. "That little promise, it kept me going," she whispered. "It made me feel like I still had a purpose. Like I would get to see you grow strong. Strong enough to take care of yourself. And maybe, just maybe take care of me one day." I felt my chest burn. "Grandma, you didn't have to." But she interrupted me with a weak laugh. "I planned it all, you know. I'd pack you lunch until the day you left for military service. And then the next morning, I'd go in for surgery." The air left my lungs all at once. Surgery. She had planned to hold on. Not for her sake, but for mine. Why didn't you tell me?" I cried. She brushed my cheek gently. "Because if you knew, you'd stop me, and I wasn't ready to stop." I realized something then. Those lunches were never about food. They were about love, routine, purpose, a reason to wake up each morning even when her heart hurt. And she had been preparing me, slowly, quietly, for the moment she would no longer be able to stand at that stove. The last morning came suddenly. I woke up to a loud clatter in the kitchen and rushed out to find her gripping the counter. Face pale, breath shallow. "Grandma," she held up a hand, trying to steady herself. "Don't panic, not yet." She insisted on sitting at the kitchen table, not the hospital. She insisted on watching me cook. "Today," she whispered, "you make my lunch." I didn't know how to cook much. Not the way she did. My hands shook as I cracked eggs, burned the toast, and cut fruit unevenly. But she watched me with the softest smile. "You're doing just fine," she said. "Did you know? Watching you. This is the future I always imagined." She took tiny bites of the lunch I made. Slow, careful, loving the effort more than the flavor. Then she placed her hand over mine. "From today on, you'll be okay without my lunches. Because you've grown." Tears blurred my vision. "And I'll be okay," she added. "Because now I've seen it." That afternoon, we finally went to the hospital to set her surgery date. She looked tired, but she didn't look afraid. She looked relieved. Grandma's surgery was successful, but recovery would be long. Longer than she expected, longer than I wanted to accept. I stayed by her bedside, holding her hand the way she used to hold mine. On the first day of school, "Grandma," I whispered, "when I was little, you kept me alive every morning. Now it's my turn." She smiled sleepily. "You don't owe me anything." "Yes," I said, "I do. You gave me 10 years of mornings. Let me give you the rest of mine." From that day on, I cooked for her. Burnt eggs and uneven sandwiches at first. But she loved every one. She'd unwrap the lunch I made and say, "It tastes just like love." And every time she said it, I felt a little piece of my heart heal. One evening, as I was leaving her room, she called out softly, "You kept your promise, sweetheart." I turned back. "Which one?" "The one you didn't know you made," she said with a warm smile. "The promise to grow up well." And for the first time, I understood what she meant. Her lunches weren't preparing me for hunger. They were preparing me for adulthood. For life without her. But now, life would still include her. And I would make sure of it. Because love doesn't end when the lunches stop. It simply changes hands. If you enjoyed this story, please like and subscribe, it truly helps.